Here is our test model. It is a 2013 BMW 528i X-Drive. First step is to determine if this is original paint versus repaint. This is original paint. I talked to the owner. I verified through a visual inspection, which, how do you tell the difference? Well, that's a whole nother video. So let's just assume that it's original paint, such is the case here. I want to pre-clean the area. This car is already clean, but the customer drove to me, so I know it's got a little dust and debris on the back end of it. I want to get off first. Now, like with a lot of things of detailing, many subjects can be oversimplified at a casual observation. This is one of them. There's multiple steps to this. Removing the emblems is actually the easiest of the steps, despite what you might think. What I'm going to use is the heat gun, my new Milwaukee heat gun. What this does is it softens up the double-sided tape that is put on at the factory, and then I can slice through it with my 25-pound fishing line. I've got my fishing line prepared. It's already cut to length so that when I heat this up, I can seize the moment of the double-sided tape being softened. Now what I do is, because there's really no way to determine the true temperature of this, but I know through experience that this heat gun could literally blister this paint if I kept it there long enough. And that's like everything in detailing, is I can go about it in a safe way or an unsafe way. So I can always do damage if I want to and if I'm careless, or I can choose to not do damage if I apply some common sense, strategy, and experience. So I just start feeling the paint, and I know that I'm initially heating up the surface only, and it's got to allow time for it to basically absorb to the double-sided tape, which is what I'm really after, because it's the tape that is what's holding these emblems in place. And you've got to remember, this tape is meant to last a lifetime, so it's on there pretty good as a rule. But I double check the paint around it and determine how hot it is getting. And I also know that I got to allow a certain enough of time to, I don't want to flash heat it, because it's only going to heat up the surface. I want to absorb the heat to the back of the double-sided tape. And I'll do this for approximately 30 seconds to a minute. And like right here, if I was to hold this to my hand, it's enough to singe my hair on my hand, but it's not enough to actually burn the skin. Just to give you some point of reference, because you're not here, you're not able to feel it. Then these literally will just slice through that quick, because that tape has now been softened up and it's able to literally cut through it. Now this is a double-sided tape. Now, as I instructed the customer, this car, since it's a 13 model, this literally could be out of the factory for a little over 4 years, because as a rule, we know that cars are introduced prior to the actual year. So this is a 13 model, which means it would have been available for sale in the year 2012. The older the car gets, not only is it more difficult to remove this, but you also have a chance of there being a shadow left behind, because this area that is exposed will be subject to the UV rays, and it will degrade, it will fade, it will change color, even though it doesn't look like it. Once you take this off, then suddenly you reveal a shadow. That, based on the severity of it, cannot be removed completely. You can color sand some of the clear coat away, but that does not mean it will be enough to remove the shadow. So you just never know what you're going to get. And the older the car is, the more of a concern it is. And that's where you, if you're a professional or a car owner, you need to be aware of. Before I go further with this step, I want to move the X-Drive. And in case you do not know, which I had to confirm with my customer, the X-Drive means it's all-wheel drive. My heat gun actually has two settings, a high and a low, based on the heat gun you have. And you could use like your mom or girlfriend's hair dryer. Like a quality hair dryer will get about 400 degrees. That can be hot enough. It would just take a little longer for it to absorb through that material. I used to use dental floss, and it just kept breaking on me, but this 25-pound test I was able to find at Oh, Big Five. I'm not a big fishing guy, so I don't really have access to a bunch of fishing supply places, but I found this at Big Five, and 25-pound test is more than enough, and I went with the heaviest gauge that I could find at Big Five. Also, what you want to be careful of, especially these bigger emblems that are a single piece, is that you remove them, they tend to want to lift up in different angles. And if you catch one of these edges as you're lifting it up, it could actually gouge and dig into the paint. So if you're a beginner, that's something that you don't really realize, and you become hyper focused on getting it off, and you're prying up an edge, and you then realize after the fact that you just gouged the paint over here because you pried it up at an angle, and these sharp edges nicked or gouged or scratched the paint. Now the next step is to remove this tape, double-sided tape. Now, back in the day, prior to having one of these cool tools, which is my 3M eraser tool, I had to old school it and do it by hand. So it can be done. If the area is big enough, what you will do is you will literally force the separation of the top layer of your skin away from the bottom layer, and you will create a blister, and it is very painful, especially in the following days as you try to use your fingers. So this has been on long enough where it's very difficult, but it can be done. This is the point at which most guys or girls become very impatient, and they want to rush it because they get frustrated. It starts becoming painful on their fingertips, so they reach for some kind of scraper and think that they're going to be able to finesse this off with some kind of metal scraper without doing damage, and that's really delusional. It's just not going to happen, and I've been called in many times to fix those moments. So they start scraping it, realize they're doing damage, they pull away and think, oh my gosh, I got to call a professional now. Well, if you think that is expensive to remove it professionally the first way, you ought to see how expensive it can get to fix a mistake. So that's where you have to understand your limitations and what's the better trade-off for you in your world. As a rule, I'm always going to check my eraser tool. It's a very solid rubberized material. It's not tacky, but could things cling to it or reside in it, get stuck to it? Yes, it could. So as a rule, I always check it to make sure there's no debris around there before I take it to the paint. I also want to clean this area once again. Now that I've removed that emblem, I don't want any loose dirt hanging around that could possibly damage the area. Now, one of my little tricks is I actually wear these magnifying glasses. For us old people, they're just called readers. It allows me to magnify the area so I can see at a greater level what's going on, because I know that if it's magnified and I can nail it 100% to perfection, I know that under normal viewing conditions, it's going to look just absolutely flawless. I will tell you guys this also, the first time, all the way through the very last time you use this tool, you will likely be nervous. To this day, I'm still nervous. The reason I remain nervous is because this is so counterintuitive, where you think, how could this possibly, this hard rubberized material, possibly remove this without damaging the paint? I have no idea. I just know that it works on every case. I don't care what color the car is, black, white, it's just truly defies logic. Anything that it can be felt, I want to get with this eraser tool before I come in with my rapid remover or adhesive remover before I finish that final residue. And obviously there's a shadow here, but the shadow that we're looking at is just accumulation of dirt that is not able to be removed during the traditional washing, polishing, or waxing process. And many people ask why, like in a lot of states or other countries, people don't understand why people remove emblems. Okay, that's one of the main reasons, is guys want what's called a cleaner look. So if you look at this back end, you've got the logo of BMW, which for most of us. That's a good thing. But you'll notice now it's just a cleaner or less busy look to it. At this point, it's time for one of my favorite products, the Rapid Remover. This is an adhesive remover. Now what you need to do, for example, he had these taillights tinted. It's actually a film, it's not a spray. So for example, if you use an adhesive remover or a polish or other chemicals, this may actually damage this film. Based on experience, I know that I need to be cautious of that. Now what I have going on is literally the dirt that has stained the paint. And this is where polishing comes in. And polishes can be something as basic as a polish with a cleaner in it, as in chemical cleaners, or it can be a polish with true abrasives in them. To me, a polish is not a polish unless it has some kind of actual abrasives to it, because that is how you polish something to a greater shine or remove blemishes, is you literally sand your way to success. And by sanding, I mean polishing through abrasives. What you can also use is one of my favorite tools, the magic eraser. And really, you can enhance its abilities through the use of chemicals like a degreaser or a cleaner. But really, this sponge-like material is so effective. By itself, you just need some form of liquid to essentially lubricate the surface so it'll slide. And you can see that that staining of the dirt is now disappearing. Just know that the more you rub with this, the more it will abrade the paint. So out there in viewer land, you have no idea how much pressure I'm putting on this. So that's what you don't have privilege to, and unless I call it out to you, you just don't know. And I get people, for example, you guys out there, a few of you will freak out because I used a paper towel, and you think, wow, Darren, that's a bitchin' 5 Series BMW. You're really going to whip out a paper towel and use it? You're going to scratch the crap out of that paint. Well, A, yes, I could if I wanted to, but guess what? I don't want to. So try that on for size. B, I know that if I scratch this paint, I could actually fix it. Now, of course, I don't want to create work for myself in that context, but I know that I could fix it. And like I said at the beginning, you can either choose to go about something that's inherently risky in a risky way or a less risky way. So with the paper towel, I'm using it softly, just enough to do what I want it to do, no more, no less. That's going about it with managed risk. The same with this eraser tool. Now I know because of the age of this car, I'm already going to have to polish it. I've already accepted that at the beginning. So if I abrade this paint, it's a non-issue to me, because literally scratching the paint and abrading the paint are two entirely different things. Abrading it literally just scuffs the very top layer of ultrafine, what in the industry we might call micro scratching. There's another like over glorified word, micro scratching. What does that mean? Well, it just means you're scratching at a microscopic level. It's not individual deep scratches. So abrasions, to me, a non-issue. They're easy to polish away, whether I'm going to do it by hand or not. On this car, I'm going to bust out my DA to polish it, and I'm going to use some polish that has true abrasives in it, because I want this, I want it at a level 10. 10 is perfection, because I want my customer over there to be more than satisfied when he drives away with here, knowing that it really was done at a professional level. But if you're a Johnny car owner and this is your white car, you literally could stop here and nobody, you could line up 1,000 people and I'd be willing to bet that not a single one of them would know the difference, because people don't have the experience of knowing what to look for, and they don't have a trained eye in knowing what to look for as to whether the paint was abraded or not. So this is an easy fix with the magic eraser. Now I could have just as easily gone to a polish by hand and removed this, but I know that this magic eraser is actually quicker to the finish line than a polish. Or once it's been removed, then I can just polish it for the sake of polishing the paint. I'm not trying to polish it to clean the paint, remove the accumulated dirt or the staining. I'm just merely polishing it so there's no abrasions whatsoever. All I'm concerned with in this moment, I'm not concerned with the edges because I'm not going to use a rotary buffer. I'm not going to be overly aggressive. All I want to do is really just manage my risk. And the risky moment in this part, and really even if I did tap my buffer over this film, would it do damage? No, it would actually just polish it. But just in the event, just to be extra safe, extra cautious, I'm just going to tape this up in case, let's say you're a beginner and you're buffing and your buffer happens to grab an edge and it pops your buffer over somewhere that it doesn't belong. Life is risky enough. We don't need to add to that risk. What I'm going to be using this time around is my Rupees 21 Bigfoot that was a gift for Christmas from one of my viewers. So Brian in Baltimore, once again, thank you very much. I've got my Shoal Concept spider pad. You can call it dark blue or purple. I also have their S20 black. I put it in a separate applicator container because it's easier to use. I can get this in one step with my DA. I'm going to set this on level 4 and just polish this area. Once again, there's not much going on, but I'm shooting for level 10 here. And this is where these glasses really come in handy because I can really scrutinize this to a much higher level and see what's going on, because I know that if I can nail it under this close scrutiny, it's going to be perfect with the unaided visual eye. Remove the polish, check for results, either move forward or determine that you are done. And based on what I'm seeing with my magnifiers, I cannot see any blemish whatsoever. So I'm going to call that a level 10. So this looks completely stock, as though the emblems were never there. I'm looking at this. We have partly cloudy skies today, but we're in the direct shade. So whether it was sunny or not, it does not appear that any shadow whatsoever is left behind, which of course is the good news. We'll never be able to tell those emblems were there in the first place. So this is what we're shooting for. Now as the final step, I've got my Menzerna. This is the Power Lock polymer sealant. But yes, I want to apply some wax, sealant, whatever, to the area that we worked on. This dries pretty quickly and we are good to go. And now it feels as smooth as a baby's bottom. Want to feel that? And you want to inspect that? What do you think?
Can't even tell that they were there.
Yeah. Nailed it.
Good job.
Cannot even tell it was there. Here I am with Richard. So I had a little brief introduction. We said this was a 2013
28i.
28i.
Yes.
Original owner?
Second owner.
Second owner. Did you buy it from a private party or a dealership?
No, I bought it at the dealership.
Okay. What dealership?
Riverside, BMW.
Oh, very good. I asked you during the video why you wanted to remove the emblems. You said to clean it up.
Clean it up, and the emblems were chrome, and I don't really have that much chrome on the car. Everything's pretty much like blacked out.
Yeah, in fact, let's pull back because I do want to get a view of this car because he has upgraded it with some really badass wheels. What are those, like 20-inch wheels?
20-inch.
Okay, so we could verify actually right here. So 275, 30, ZR20. 20 is the diameter of the wheel. 30 is an aspect ratio of the sidewall, which means it's 30% of the metric measurement of 275, which is the width. So that means that this sidewall is 30% of 275, whatever that equates to. But that is a very low profile tire. This has a nice deep dish to it. It's an Asante wheel, which is a very high grade wheel. So as you can tell, this thing's, I don't know, what's the going lingo? It's doped out, pimped out, murdered out, all of the above. How about it's just a bitchin' ride? Let's get a front view. You've got the kidney bean grille of BMW blacked out. So as you said, there's not much chrome going on this thing. Also the door handles, typically these will be in chrome. These have been blacked out. He's blacked out the tail lights. So yeah, this thing looks dope, man. I don't know. How old are you?
31.
31. See, I'm an old guy, so I don't know. Let's come back in front of the camera. I'm an old guy, so the only way I actually have the ability to stay up is because I have kids. My oldest is 22, so I kind of pick up some of their lingo sometimes. Anyhow, so badass ride.
Thank you.
So what did you actually consider doing this on your own?
I did actually.
And how long did you actually consider it?
For a while.
Okay.
I think since I got the car.
So what was that process? I know you found me on YouTube,
On YouTube,
correct?
yeah.
Okay. Do you recall the exact keywords that you entered?
Just do it yourself, badge removal or something like that.
Okay. And was I one of the first videos that popped up?
I've seen a few other ones, but
Okay.
yours is the one that caught my eye.
Okay, so you found me on YouTube,
Yeah.
which is a ripple effect, and that's a good thing in my world because now I'm optimized my website for badge removal, so that could have been another way that you could have found me, but he found me on YouTube. So this is what I call a win for everyone. I'm teaching you guys are winning. He wins because now he found a professional that can do this. Who else wins? We all win. Everyone's gaining from this moment, and that's the idea, is to how do we pull out as much useful material out of these moments, whether it's you, the viewer, the do-it-yourselfer, the professional detailer that wants to learn how to do this. Because as you become diversified as a detailer, that can be the good news and the bad news. You have to carry around more equipment, you have to now become experienced, and this really can get very nerve-wracking because you've got that tool, you're working on a car, you know, list price on this thing brand new was well above $50,000 is my guess. I don't know how fully loaded it is, but it's not a cheap ride.
Yeah.
And then you've got some money into these wheels and tires. So that all adds to the stress as a detailer when it's like, wow, if I screw this car up, not going to be good. So, but the same is with you, where you're thinking, wow, I've just spent all this money on this car. Do I really want to screw it up and try to do something that I lack experience with? So that's where a lot of people go to YouTube and they say, oh, I'll just learn how to do it on YouTube. A lot of times things are grossly oversimplified. I think this is one of those areas that can often be oversimplified for guys because you could easily think, how hard is it? I'll just go out there and pull the emblems off, maybe get a little adhesive remover or something, and shoot, I'll be good to go.
It's not that easy.
Was it during the process of watching those videos that you kind of came to the conclusion, it's like, okay, maybe I need to accept my limitations and hire a professional?
Yeah, because I was scared of just messing up the paint, period. You know what I mean? It's a BMW, and that's not something I want to mess with.
Yeah. And even if it was a Honda Civic, you still wouldn't want to mess it up because it's yours. You're emotionally attached to it.
Exactly.
It's just more emotional attachment because it's a Beamer. It's like, hey man, this thing's all tricked out. This is the last thing I want to do now is mess it up.
Exactly.
So that's when you reached out. I don't know if you reached out via text.
I sent you an email.
Oh, you sent me an email. Okay. And fortunately, I responded because I am bombarded with texts, emails, it's just overwhelmed. So I try to stay up on it. So that was good. Anything else go through your mind as far as like picking and choosing, or maybe something that comes to your head while you were observing me, or it's like, whoa, I'm glad I did not try this on my own?
Well, yeah, I mean, you knew I seen a few of your videos, and you could tell you knew what you were talking about. Like, you've been doing this for years, so that's why I decided to come to you.
Okay. So I established myself and allowed you to gain enough confidence in my skills through my videos and so forth, texting, emailing. And that's what you guys got to do, is establish yourself. But it's more than just talking the talk. You've got to also be able to back it up and be able to perform. And that's what I'm trying to teach you guys is, you know, tricks and techniques that I use so to make you guys better and be able to deliver a better service and product to the customer. In this case, it's Richard. So Richard,
thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
And in behalf of all them, they are out there saying, you know what, thank you, Richard, because this gets very awkward for people. It's still awkward for me to be in front of the camera despite appearances, and people are really hesitant as you were.
Yeah, I was.
So I say, you know what, there's just two requirements. All you got to do is be honest and just answer the questions. I'll guide you, I'll direct you. So are you happy with the results?
Very satisfied.
Okay, good. And that's what I like to hear.